Today, we are going to be building a dovetail desk using this 9.5 foot maple shuffleboard slab. I had previously made a coffee table from the other half of the slab, and you can find that on my Instagram at Rojas Carpentry. This other half I decided to build a desk for myself. If you eat, sleep, and breathe Festool, you may want to close your eyes for this next part. Long story short, the blade was dull, there's a lot of nails in the slab that didn't help, and a lot of multiple very, very ugly passes were needed to get through the material. Since then, I've invested in some new, sharp blades. After sectioning off the top from the legs, I can start marking out all the joinery cuts. For the angled portions, all I did was choose a random angle that looked pretty good, and just carried that throughout my layout. Oh look, a saw. You might know what that means. Yep, cutting more nails. And to finish off the cut, I just used a standard handsaw. I didn't want to use a pull saw or a flush cut saw because any nails left in the slab probably would have damaged the teeth on the saw. I made sure to leave enough room so I could just pare the rest off with a chisel. Here I'm just using a marking gauge to sever the grain so I can start the removal of material with a chisel. I take out about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch worth of material so it'll help guide my multi-tool more accurately into the cut. Once the wood has been cut, I just use a chisel to hug out the material. After our dovetails are cut out, we can transfer our lines to our side supports. Oddly enough, I found a skill saw was a lot less cumbersome than using the circular saw. The extra power helps out cut through the material a lot better too. The cuts with the handsaw are also required to finish off the cut. Same thing for chopping out these dovetails, it's just more multi-tool work and chisel work. So after all the dovetails were cut, it's now time for assembly. Here I'm just paring up the edges of the dovetails with a chisel. For the assembly of the desk, I used some glue and some parallel clamps, possibly with the added persuasion of a 20-pound sledgehammer off camera. But it went together quite well. For sanding the burn marks off the corners, I opted out to use a flap disc on my grinder rather than a sander, as end grain, especially on hard maple, can be a lot tougher to sand. Before I start my finished sanding, I'm going to use Starbond CA glue. I'm using their medium thickness clear glue, as well as the Starbond accelerator spray, so I can get the sanding much faster. Once I had the table on its side, I attacked it again with the flap disc and the angle grinder. I continued on with a belt sander, and then I finished it off with an orbital sander. Instead of sanding layers and layers of old paint on the underside, I decided to paint it black. There's old mounting holes I didn't want to fill, and I believe that the black actually helps direct your attention towards the top and the joinery of the actual piece. For an awesome desk, I really need an awesome finish, so I'm going to be using Total Boat's Gleam 2.0 in gloss and satin. To make it easier to apply, I thin them both down with the Special Brushing Thinner 100 from Total Boat. I'm going to be using 5 coats of gloss and then a top coat of satin. This really helps bring out the clarity and the depth in the wood. In between coats, I sanded smooth with 220 grit sandpaper for a nice streak-free finish. All in all, I'm very pleased with how this desk came out. I've never actually made dovetails before, so I'm especially happy with the joints and how they look on this desk. Possibly in the future, I plan on making some drawers for this desk, so that might be a future video to look out for. To see why I didn't plug in this lamp, wait until the end. I also couldn't have asked for a better finish, so a huge thank you goes out to Total Boat for supplying me with the finish for this project. You can find a link to those products down in my description below.
Oh.